Welcome to the Inside Eco Devo podcast. I'm your host, Eric Thurman, and on this episode, we're talking about Missouri's Central Region, and sitting down with us is the Central Regional Manager, Mitch Rademan. Mitch, welcome. Thanks
for
Eric.
Coming in. Appreciate you having me.
So we've done a couple of these with our regional managers before, and I've asked, similar questions I'm going to be asking you, but let's just kind of kick it off with the regional manager. Kind of give us an idea of your day-to-day. What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the role of the regional manager is, well, just like it says, is to manage your region. Beyond just working projects myself, I also have individual Allie Crabb. She's on my team as well. So we kind of split up the region, and she handles the southern half and I handle the northern half.
And from a day-to-day perspective, handling that section of the region, what kinds of things are you guys doing? Like cold calling businesses? Are they reaching out to you guys? How does that process work?
Yeah. That's a great question. So in a traditional sense, it is somewhat of a sales job, but we're not a traditional salesperson that's going to go out and cold call businesses. What we like to do is we'll work with our local partners, whether that's local economic developers or local elected officials. Just kind of educate them, so to speak, on some of the programs we have out there, and then also reaching out to businesses that we have worked with before, just kind of getting a temperature check, kind of seeing how things are going and seeing if there's any other ways that we can assist them.
So let's kind of dive into the region. Tell me about the Central Region. That's kind of an open-ended question. Some people kind of tackle it in a few different ways, but tell me about the Central Region. What makes it up and all of that?
Yeah. So what makes up the Central Region is we have about 30 counties that we cover. So from a geographical footprint, it's probably the biggest region in the state. I think Sherry up north may argue with me on that one a little bit, but there's a lot of windshield time. And again, I am fortunate to have a great member on my team, Allie Crabb. She does a heck of a job on the southern portion of the region for us. But to describe the region to the listeners, try to think inside of Kansas City and St. Louis, south of Moberly, and north of Springfield. So if you can picture the state of Missouri and picture that piece of the pie, so to speak, that's the area that we cover.
Previously, we've talked to our St. Louis regional manager and our Southeast regional manager. We're trying to keep it all straight here. Those areas not as big, the workforce and the industries that are the main kind of hubs there, kind of more focused in one direction or the other. With Central Region being so big, is there a big diversity in the industries? What's the industry like?
Yeah. So there is a lot of diversity in our region. Some communities you'll go into, and agriculture will be the biggest industry for them. Other regions you'll go into and it'll be manufacturing, whether it's a homegrown Missouri company or just another branch of a bigger corporation. But yeah, that's the beauty of Missouri itself, is just the diversity. And, in our region, we get to see a little bit of everything. Columbia is probably the biggest city in our region. So we get to see a little bit of the big city there. And then there's a lot of communities that I would say are 15,000 people and less, that we get to see the smaller community as well. So we get to see a little bit of everything in our region.
Any kinds of different ways that you tackle that? I mean, when you go to Columbia, for example, are you using a different tactic to, I know you say it's not a sales job, but selling the department's incentives and stuff versus going to a smaller town, or is it business is business no matter where you go?
That's a great question. So when you get to the larger communities, we have some great local partners, whether it's Jessica out in the Sedalia area or Bernie and his team in Columbia, for example, or even Luke and Missy here in Jeff City. We've got some great local partners that are very well versed in the economic development world and educated on our programs as well. So they're very easy to work with, so to speak. It's a very seamless, hey, they'll reach out to me or vice versa, and we'll get to work on a project. Some of our smaller communities, the neat thing right now that we're seeing is a lot of individuals in those smaller towns that are forward thinking, that are taking leadership positions, whether it's a mayor or a commissioner or, hey, a new chamber director, things of that nature. They're wanting to improve their communities in somehow, some way. And so going to those smaller communities, and there's a lot more education that we have to do on our end, whether it's sitting down with a mayor and explaining the programs that we have, that it's not just business related, it's also community related, or having a cup of coffee at a chamber event and just talking to business owners in the area. It's not a cookie cutter mold, so to speak. And I think that's what makes it such a fun role is you never know what you're going to do every day. It's something different every day to do.
Yeah. And trying to be connected on that diverse of a playing field where you have to kind of know going in, well, I'm meeting with this chamber in this area. They like to do things in a particular way. Columbia has their particular way. You kind of have to have trying to think of a good analogy here, a nice hand of playing cards, I guess, to tackle all of that. Yeah,
exactly. And, it's funny, you mentioned talking to some of the bigger regions, the more metro regions. They have a lot of Zoom calls, because there's people in those areas that don't want to take the time to have a hand-to-hand, let's sit down face-to-face. Majority of our region, people want to sit down. They want to have you in their office, and they want to look you in the eye. Me being a Central Missouri guy, I love that approach. A great example of something similar, small community of Brunswick, Missouri. We recently did a project there, and the mayor was just flabbergasted that I was willing to come out and speak to her. But it's like, well, this is what we do, and this is why. We want you to have a face to talk to when it comes to state programs.
Thinking about driving factors that attract businesses to the region, I think probably Missouri as a whole, they're probably looking holistically at Missouri's location, what we offer and all that. But is there anything specific to the central region that you see as a driving factor that businesses are going there versus a different region in the state?
One thing that I definitely see is I-70. I-70 goes east to west through our territory. And so now with the state going from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, it's definitely caught a lot of people's attention, not just businesses, but also the communities. And I think that's the great thing is there are a lot of newer local leaders, so to speak, and they're all saying, what can we do to prepare ourselves for this? Because they understand that opening up those extra lanes of traffic are going to open up their communities for possible expansion. That's the biggest thing that I see myself in our region is the fact that we've got this great interstate coming through, and the state has invested a lot of money to say, hey, we're going to expand this thing. So just trying to get out there and work with my local partners in that region to make certain, hey, we're ready for this when it comes through.
And transportation, being a transportation hub kind of in the middle of the United States, connected to 8 states?
Yeah.
I guess 70 would be our biggest highway interstate. So expanding that's just another feather in the cap that we can say, hey, our transportation's great and we're making it better.
Exactly. And that's, between our team here at Economic Development and the team at Missouri Partnership, just working back and forth with each other to, hey, you all let me know what you need to know about my region to talk to those companies outside the state. And then I'll help my local communities. Hey, look, here's what they're looking for. Let's make certain that your community is ready for them.
So we've been kind of talking around project working, like going out to talk to different members of the community, businesses and whatnot. But when it comes to bringing a project to fruition, can you kind of talk about that timeline and that process?
Here recently, our team, at the beginning of our fiscal year, we did a great job of and I guess here's one thing that I love. I got a coaching background, and Nick Saban always said, nobody ever stays the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And with acting director Hadaway, she's basically told the department, let's look in the mirror. How can we get better? And one of the ways that we have improved significantly is how we get a project through our internal system. Now, when a company turns in the form saying, here, we're requesting some assistance with Missouri Works or Missouri One Star, we can get a project proposal back out, if we had to, within a week. And that's the beauty of just the team that we have. I can't stress that enough. The individuals that we have here in the department that are working behind the scenes to be able to get a project out the door. And so once we get that proposal into the business's hands, okay, the moment we get it signed, okay, we're working to get a press release out to, let everybody know the good news that's coming out of our department, and then also helping that business with basically some free publicity. Depending on what the project is, the scope of it, things of that nature, it's a very relatively quick process to get a project moving.
Yeah, I'd imagine each project probably a little different, a little unique based on all the little factors that make up their situation. You had said a few things that we have in the department, Missouri Works, Missouri One Start. When you're working with these businesses, is there anything that you're pitching to them? Like, hey, here's our top incentives based on usage. Or are you listening to like, here's their needs based on what you're telling me, here's what I would suggest?
Yeah. It's that second approach. And again, it's not a traditional sales role, but it's very similar. You need to spend the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Okay. You need to listen more than you talk. And so before you can go in there and start talking to them about programs, you need to find out, hey, what are your goals? What are your pain points? Where can I assist you versus telling you, no, this is what I'm going to offer you. You may think Missouri One Start, but then you go in there and realize, no, we don't qualify, or no, this isn't the program for you. Let's look at something else possibly.
Anything out of that you could say, here's the top 3 based on all the businesses we've talked to, communities, feedback and all that. Here's the department's top 3, or is that too difficult to pin down?
I mean, obviously, I think the top 2 are Missouri Works, Missouri One Start, whether it's businesses or community related. The CDBG program, the grant program that we have, and that goes back into what we were discussing earlier with the I-70 expansion. I've got a lot of communities in our region that are smaller communities that maybe need their town square updated or infrastructure projects that need to be worked on. That's where the CDBG program comes into play. And that's the neat program, is because that's kind of the quiet one of all of the ones that everybody is aware of. And so again, working with these smaller communities and, whether it's, hey, we need a new community pool. Okay, well, you know what? You need a new community pool. When a business is looking, what they're asking is, what do you have to offer our employees? So it's really beautiful that the circle, so to speak, of economic development isn't just pigeonholed to a business. It's about the whole ball of wax, so to speak.
What you're talking about there is the collaboration between regional engagement versus all the other teams in DED and also the community. Can you speak to that a little bit when you're working on a project and there's different incentives that are going to be used, the collaboration that has to happen between regional engagement and, say, the CDBG team or the Missouri One Start team? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely you want to under-promise and over-deliver, so to speak. So you're very cautious when it comes to spouting off, oh, yeah, I've got these programs. No, we got to make sure we can get you qualified for them first. So it's having conversations with the team from CDBG. Hey, let me get a conference call together, or hop in the car with me and let's go speak to these people. And let's find out, does this apply for them or not? And if not, why not? And if so, okay, what is our next step? But yeah, the CDBG program is really fascinating program when you look at it, because I think that's the beauty of what we do is there's so many different programs within the department that a person can get lost looking at them, really. It reminds me of the old Sears catalog that you would get in the mail as a kid, just how thick our catalog is of different programs to offer. It's really neat, but yeah, the team over at CDBG, anytime I reach out to them, I'm learning on the fly, so to speak, as well. And they have been great to work with as far as explaining programs to me, or saying, yes, let me have that conversation with that local business, that local economic development partner, or that local elected official, and let's find out what they're doing, and let's see if we can get them in one of these programs.
With the projects that you've worked in your time here in the department, any ones that kind of stand out as your favorite or put perspective into some of the things that we've been talking about?
Yeah. And I think, again, a coaching background, there's a phrase that I love, and it's big team, little me. And I've got such a great team that I work with, whether it's Allie or Shauna and Lori, my direct supervisors, all the way up to Acting Director Hadaway. A great project that we recently worked on was at Unilever. We were able to secure liquid IV here in Jefferson City. It was a major win for the community. It was a major win for the department, and a major win for the state, because we were competing against another state on that one. It was just great to see everybody coming together with the same goal of, let's get this project and let's get it accepted and let's push it through. So that one was a lot of fun. It was a big dollar amount. A lot of jobs were involved. And then, of course, getting to shake hands with the governor at the event, that was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I know with these projects, a lot of things are kind of hush-hush. You can't really give a lot of details, but to kind of just put into context some of the things we've already talked about, can you talk about the process of that Unilever project, just to kind of give the listeners an idea of what it takes to go into making a project like that a success?
Basically, our local partners had found out about it first. They brought me in, myself and Lori. We were in on the meeting with the local partners, the local elected officials, and the company. Then the company said, here's what we want to do. And we do have an option to go to another state. Okay. And so when we started getting into the details, okay, we sent them the forms. We need you to fill this out so we can see the scope of the project, dollar amounts, and how many jobs were involved in this project. So from there, the local team and we commuted on a weekly basis just because of the scope of the project. I mean, it was an $80 million project. So this isn't just we can get this one right through. This was a very intense project from start to finish. And working with the local team, finding out what the local community was going to offer them. Okay, now we know what the other state is offering as well. How aggressive can we get? And so we got as aggressive as we possibly could, and we felt confident in the proposal that we sent. And it was a great phone call because I was actually talking to the local partner about something else. And Missy with the Jeff City Regional Economic team, she said, "Oh yeah, by the way, they've accepted that project." And just kind of, "Oh yeah, by the way." Like not, hey, this is the reason for the phone call. And, it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, wait a minute, like you're just acting like this is no big deal. And she's like, well, nothing's signed yet. She's like, but yeah, we've got a verbal. And it was a great feeling, kind of like what you said, a feather in your cap to be able to say, look what we did. From a traditional sense, this is not a sales role. This is not a quota and commissions, things of that nature. But as a kid, I did a lot of landscaping working for my brother's company, and I can drive around town and I can look at walls that I built when I was 20 years old. And being able to, drive down the road and say, I helped that company, that's a great feeling. It really is. And, even the smaller communities and the smaller projects, hearing how excited they are. And it's like, that, hey, I helped that company or I helped that community. And that goes back to what our motto is, helping Missourians prosper. So I take a lot of pride in that.
Again, I know things are hush-hush when they're active, but anything currently going on the horizon that's exciting that you can talk about that's happening in Central Region?
Oh, goodness. That's already been signed, sealed, and
whatever you can talk about, because I know things have to remain quiet when things aren't signed and all that.
Yeah. I can tell you a little bit that we do have a project currently we're waiting on an announcement, whether or not they're going to agree with it. I can say that the company that we are working with is excited about what we have proposed. We've had some detailed discussions with them since our proposal was sent, and everything has been positive with the company. Now, nothing is signed yet, so we can't really discuss the details of it. But it's a big project, as far as ones that we can discuss. North Star up in Brunswick, small community, smaller company, smaller project. But it was a $4 million project, and they were going to bring in 5 new full-time jobs into this community. And when I sat down and talked to the mayor and let her know what was happening, she was ecstatic because one of her goals was bringing new jobs in. And right off the bat to start the calendar year, hey, we got 5 new positions that are opening up in your town. So, yeah, just hearing that level of excitement on something that from our world, 5 jobs isn't a lot of jobs, but for a small community, 5 good paying jobs, they were tickled, and it was great. It was like, you know what? This is what we're here for, to help these communities move on.
This is kind of an open-ended question. And again, I guess it just depends on the business, but thinking holistically of the region and maybe Missouri as well, from your position, what does it take or what is needed to make sure that economic development excels in the Central Region or maybe Missouri as a whole?
any good organization, it starts with leadership. And we've got great leaders at the top. There's no denying that. And, one of my favorite things about working for this department is I enjoy coming to work every day. And friends and family have told me, they're like, you look genuinely happy. And it's like, yeah, I am. Strong leadership. Then it comes down to, okay, everybody knowing their role, and then everybody working towards the same goal. So we don't see, at least knock on wood for myself, I don't see a lot of people pulling in different directions here. Everybody knows the same game plan, which again goes back to our motto. Why are we here? We're here to help Missourians prosper. And so it's the beauty of it is yes, I may be the face of our department out in the field every day, but I know when I come back to my office and I say, okay, I need to get with my people behind the scenes, I don't have to wait very long for an answer. Whether it's a phone call, a text, or an email, I get my answers relatively quickly, and okay, we're getting back in front of these people. And, state government at the end of the day gets a bad rap. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this department is we go against what people think of when they think state employees. We are hardworking. We are responsive. We get things done. We're all a part of the game plan. We all understand the game plan, and we're moving forward with it.
In that same vein, this next question is kind of like maybe the sales pitch time, but for businesses looking to expand or relocate or what have you, why should businesses come into the region or Missouri as a whole? Why should they come to Missouri versus somewhere else?
If I'm going to sell Central Region compared to another state, I'll put Central Region's work ethic up against anybody, and twice on Sunday. That's the beauty of the region that I'm in, is growing up this area. I understand that work ethic comes first and foremost. And the neat thing, again, is the phrase, well, that's always how we've done it, has kind of gone out the window. I've met a lot of local leaders, whether it's business owners, managers, or elected officials that are saying, what can we do to improve and how can we do it? And so there's a very much a forward-thinking mindset in my region right now, not just the state itself, but a lot of communities that they do have sites that are ready to build. They do have the infrastructure in place, and they're ready to get aggressive. They're basically saying, Mitch, let us know what we need to do. We're ready to bring somebody in here right now. So I think that's the biggest sales pitch is if you're looking for workers that are going to work hard for you and be a part of your team and a community that wants to assist you, come to Central Region.
Just piggybacking off of that, is there something in that answer you gave might be the answer, but is there something about the Central Region that is not readily known, or maybe it's a fun fact or something that you would like listeners to know? Just something about Central Region where you're this is the thing.
Oh, you're talking to the trivia guy. You know that, right? I think that's the thing about the Central Region is there's a lot of neat little did you knows. A great one, the phrase "a man's best friend" originated in Warrensburg, Missouri. The world's largest pecan, or the United States' largest pecan, is up north in my region as well. So there's a lot of neat little things like that, so to speak, in Central Region. And then there's businesses that you wouldn't expect to see in Central Missouri. Met with a cabinet manufacturer last week that all of their cabinets are going in multi-million-dollar mansions. Small community, 10,000 people or less, and it was like you walk in and you're like, wow, this is made here. And it was a company of 40 or 50 individuals, but it was just really neat because kind of like Forrest Gump said, you never know what you're going to get. Well, that's what Central Region is. You don't know what you're going to get until you get out there and look at it.
When we're talking about the St. Louis region, they have a big science corridor there. A lot of stuff, ag, biotech, things of that nature. And it seemed to me that the more of that business that comes in there, the more that just keeps going. It's kind of like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Do you see anything like that in Central Region where there's a certain kind of industry or job or what have you that's coming in that just kind of snowballs or expands into something else?
Well, I think it kind of goes back into that one as well. See a lot of home manufactured products in our region. That community that I was at last week, for instance, the top end cabinets. We have Quaker windows in our region. So yeah, that's kind of what I notice is, okay, there is a lot of manufacturing done here centered around the home.
That's interesting that when you go to certain parts of the state that can have these kind of, maybe for lack of a better term, a bubble of something, all the science in St. Louis, and I guess probably Kansas City to some extent, all the agriculture north or south, and then like home manufacturing here in this central region. It's kind of interesting when you look at it like that.
Yeah, it really is. And then, again, it goes back to the blue collar background of the Central Missouri person, and whether it's, my dad worked for this company or my granddad did, or wait a minute, I was actually helping them build homes when I was a kid. It's just interesting that the stories, a lot of things that you would not expect in Central Missouri. And that's what's neat about it is every day is a new adventure out here.
So we're kind of wrapping up here. I got one final question, but before I ask that, I'll just open the floor to you. Anything about the Central Region or regional engagement or anything in that vein that we didn't talk about that you think listeners would want to know?
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the sales pitch. I like to tell people, hey, when you need a plumber, you got a guy. When you need an electrician, you got a guy. Now, when it comes to state programs, you got a guy. While as much as I would love for all of our programs to be the ones that a business or a community needs, myself and Allie have done a great job of working with other departments to learn the individuals that we need to speak to or different programs that are out there. And so when I'm talking to a business owner or I'm talking to a community, DED may not have the program for them, but hey, I may know a guy in USDA, for instance. You know what? Let me be that conduit for you. So I think that's a big thing that we want to let people know. Like, look, even if it's not our program, talk to us about what you're wanting to do, and we can help facilitate that introduction for you versus you trying to go hunt it down already for yourself. Myself and Allie, we may have already established that connection with another department that, hey, let me connect you already and let's get this conversation started. That's one thing that I definitely want the listeners to know, that, don't go hunting yourself. Reach out to us. We probably have already done the legwork and shaken hands with the individuals that you need to speak to. Let me be the one that's going to introduce you to them.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you already said is you're not working off commission. Whether they come to us or not, business coming to Missouri is good for everybody.
Exactly. And it's fun to work with the other departments because they're almost shocked as sometimes to hear from us. And it's like, yeah, I want everybody to do Missouri Works or Missouri One Start or a CDBG or another program that we have. This doesn't fit any of ours, but let me connect you because you guys can help them. And at the end of the day, that's my job, is to help Missourians prosper. And that's the third or fourth time I've said it, but it's such a simple goal that has so many different ways that we can help them. And that's what makes this job so much fun.
So this final question, I feel we've answered it multiple times, but I'll ask it anyway, just so maybe we'll get like a summing up answer or what have you. But as you know, the department's motto is helping Missourians prosper. So the work that you do within regional engagement and within the Central Region, how does that all go back to fulfilling that motto?
Again, we get out there. We're the face of the department. We're the ones that are troubleshooting for these communities or these companies, so to speak, and we're educating them more than anything. There are programs out there that you may not be aware of that are going to help you with this problem you're facing right now. And then from there, it's just, hey, let me educate you, because if I tell you, hey, you may tell another business owner, hey, wait a minute, I talked to Mitch or I talked to Allie, or the small town mayors may be talking to each other. Hey, wait a minute, DED helped us with this. Reach out to Mitch and talk to him. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just, that's our role, is to get out there, number one, help our communities, but then number two, educate. It's funny because people don't know what they don't know until they know it. And, whether it's talking to a chamber whether it's having a conversation with a plant manager or a business owner, and just getting out there and getting the word out there. Like, the programs are here. Like, they're here to help you, because at the end of the day, you're putting Missourians to work. And this is our way of saying thank you.
Yeah, that's a great summing up. I feel like there's a wealth of knowledge I can continue to mine out of you. And I feel like we've only scratched the surface. So hopefully we'll have you back on again, and we'll continue to talk about stuff. Thank you so much for lining out all this great information. Hopefully a business or somebody looking to relocate to Missouri hears this and they're inspired now.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside Eco Devo. We have great episodes coming your way every 2 weeks, so be sure to subscribe. Also, we want to hear from you, our listeners. Tell us what economic development topics you want to hear more about. This helps us fulfill our motto of helping Missourians prosper by bringing content to our listeners that they want to hear. Leave a comment on an episode or send an email to ded.communications@ded.mo.gov, and stay tuned for more Inside Eco Devo.